Hello and welcome back to the Groupthink Podcast. Joining us for the first time we've ever done a in-house and Skype discussion at the same time is AJ, calling us from the East Coast at some place, and then on this side, in the correct state, Andrew.
Is Illinois
and
really
the correct
state?
If sadly we lost Thomas. Thomas has been lost to time, and he can no longer have his wrong opinion about where people are supposed to be. So
it's a bummer because I always appreciate debunking his bad opinions.
But he is very forceful with his opinions, and that's the important thing.
Yeah.
That is very true.
As usual,
For a second there, I thought you were going to say I was in Poland.
Oh my gosh, that'd be probably politically incorrect and racist. But...
I mean, Poland is a state of mind, isn't it?
Pretty sure Billy Joel sang about that.
So anyway, we are here, I guess, to offer our respective best and or worst movies of the year, should you happen to care about the latter part, but...
And I freely admit that my opinion is probably wrong, but it's my opinion.
Really, this podcast is just about family, so...
Alright.
I'm being too mean to AJ tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and let him be the one to get this started, or better yet, let's just... How you been, man? What have you been up to?
I've been going to film school and missing you guys.
Oh.
It's nice to see your faces and hear your voices.
Can you see my face? Hello?
A little bit. I can see your beautiful eyelashes.
Is the pop filter in the way? Is that why? The awkwardly placed pop filter. I apologize.
This is gonna make no sense.
Now it's like blocking his face like Phantom of the Opera.
Well, everyone's just listening except AJ.
It's true.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we're not just listening.
I have strategically placed my AKG microphone between these two gentlemen here, and I'm making it worse at this very moment just because I want to hear myself better in the final recording.
I think you might have messed with my headphone jack a little bit.
It's fine.
Oh, did you?
Andrew and I have seen plenty of each other's faces.
In the right side.
Well, you probably lost it all on both sides when I unplugged it just now.
I did indeed, but it's back.
It's
and
funny.
better than ever.
It's funny how microphones work by plugging them in.
It's funny how lots of things work by plugging them in.
Yeah, and yet so many people have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're in film school. As I'm aware, you also have a girlfriend now. So
yes, that is true. One is more important to me than the other. I'll let you decide.
I almost reflexively just said gay, but that probably would not be accurate.
Quite the opposite.
You have a girlfriend? How gay.
But very, very happy in both parts of my life. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm working at FYE, the For Your Entertainment store, which is it's okay. And then going to school, managing relationship, family, money.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but I'm enjoying it. Things are good, but I do miss you guys.
Oh. Hopefully I was going to say come back to the correct state, but I can't think of a context in which Illinois, if I'm being serious, is the correct state.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm sure by the end of this, I'll feel differently.
Yeah, I mean, really the only context I could think of was when I used to annoy my ex-girlfriend, but that was the only context in which annoying someone who's in the wrong time zone was funny to me, so. Outside of this very specific scenario, so. But yeah,
outside of this and every other scenario.
Alright, I'll go ahead and let you take the floor for the introduction of the best movies of 2019!
Okay.
I feel like I'm not building this up properly.
No, it's all good. How do you want to do this? Do you want me to just go, down the list? Because I have, as usual, my full list of movies I've seen this year, and I've ranked them, all 87 of them.
If I had had any planning for this, I would have said we should also do the best movies of the decade, which I contributed to the Geeks Under Grace list, but...
I did my own series of Facebook posts, if anybody wants to check those out.
I did nothing.
Well, to be fair, Andrew's barely seen 10 movies this decade, so...
That's fair.
Hey, I have seen approximately 10 movies every year this decade.
So he's seen 100 movies. He could do He could give us his 5 movies he's liked this decade.
I'll just pull up the Wikipedia page for every year.
How about the top 10 Nintendo games of the past decade?
Oh,
there you go.
I actually have a document of that on my laptop, but I don't have that here.
I'm also big into documents.
So close. I keep every possible document prepared on the off chance that it's necessary.
My game of the decade, for surprising nobody who knows me, is Persona 5, but...
I didn't know you were horrible, degenerate weep.
See?
Wow.
I'm full of surprises.
Anyways, so...
Go ahead.
So I usually I really do like just stick to like a strict top 10, but this year I don't know. I really liked my top 15. So are you cool if I just like quickly go through my top 15 instead of like, talking in depth about 10?
Go ahead. Do it however you want. Shut up, I'm getting text from a friend of mine at the same time.
Whoa. I'm getting mixed signals over here.
You're not Kevin.
Go ahead, shut up.
You're not the one I'm yelling at.
You don't know my name in Virginia.
Ooh.
That's how that works.
You got played.
Anyways, so yeah, I'll start with number 15 and work my way down to number 1, and we'll see what you guys think. Sorry. I'm anxious to see how you guys will react to this. My number 15 best movie of 2019 is Chasing Happiness, the Jonas Brothers documentary.
Why?
Amazing.
Because I loved the Jonas Brothers growing up. Andrew can attest.
Indeed.
And this really gave a surprisingly much more in-depth look at what that group and them as brothers went through during that time. A lot of stuff I didn't know was going on. And I really just enjoyed their music, but it was really interesting to hear about their background, and I don't know, it's obviously a personal pick because it's something I was already a fan of, but I don't know, I like learning more about things that I already like. Have either of you seen it?
Nope.
No, and I'm holding back jokes right now, so...
That's fine. You can joke away.
I'm not holding back jokes.
My list is set in a Word document, so you can't really change it at this point.
If I tell too many jokes, I'm going to become the heel of my own podcast. I prefer not to.
It's all good. Number 14 is another music-based movie, but it's Blinded by the Light, the Bruce Springsteen. Not a biopic, but it's about this Indian English teenager, I guess, who is having trouble dealing with the life he wants versus the life his family wants, and a friend of his at school introduces him to the music of Bruce Springsteen, and it just opens up his eyes to realizing that what he thought were just his cultural specific issues are really universal. If some kid from New Jersey became a superstar singing about the same problems that he's having in this small town in England, then there's got to be some universality to that. And plus, it's got a really great father-son relationship that I will say made me cry at the end. It was a lot. It was done a lot better than I expected. And again, I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan, so it is a little more personal in that aspect.
It looked like the good version of Yesterday from earlier this year.
Well, see, I really liked Yesterday as well. It didn't make my top 15, but I enjoyed Yesterday. They made some interesting choices in that movie that I didn't expect, and I appreciate it.
I will freely admit that Yesterday fell by the wayside for me when I started hearing bad things about it. So.
Oh. Did you not see it?
I was going to, but then I started hearing bad things about it, and I didn't go out of my way to see it. But you
should still see it. It goes places that I did not expect it to go, and it really thinks about its concept.
Yeah,
and I appreciate
it kind of came out around the same time that Dead Don't Die came out, and I was in the middle of busy season at work, and I was just hearing bad things about all these movies that I was like passively interested in. So I'm like, same with Midsummer also. Like those three movies came out within like 2 weeks of each other. I was gonna go see all of them, but then like I started hearing middling things about all of them, and I was like, I don't have time. I'm not interested, and I ended up passing until, and since it didn't really pop up anyone's lists by the end of the year, it didn't seem worth going back to.
I will hold my comments until I finish my list.
That's fair.
13 is. I'm assuming neither of you saw Blinded by the Light.
Nope. Well,
Okay.
I saw the trailer. I'll watch it if you think so. If you think it's worth watching. So and it's in your list. So I guess I'll.
It's not. It's not incredible, but it kind of really touched me in a way. Like it combined my my love of Bruce Springsteen and like a really sweet father-son like family story, and I was trying to avoid saying that, but it happened. This movie is about family.
That's true.
Another movie about family.
The meme's dead now.
Another movie about family is my number 13, and it's Parasite.
I was gonna say, if you pick The Rise of Skywalker and that uses that joke.
No.
I've seen Parasite though. I know what
yes.
I can.
Parasite. If the only bad thing you can say about a movie is that other people hyped it up too much, then it's a pretty good movie. Like I can't think of a flaw in Parasite, but people talked about it so highly that unfortunately, like I was expecting something mind blowing, and instead got something like really, really good. And everybody should check it out. I love what Bong Joon-ho said at the Golden Globes, where he was like, he won Best Director, or no, I'm sorry. I think he might have just won Best International Film, something like that. But in his speech, he got up and was like, if people can just get past that 1-inch barrier of subtitles, you're going to be opened up to a whole new world of cinema and storytelling. And I love that quote, and I think this movie is a great one to introduce to anybody who's a little hesitant to avoiding subtitles.
I'm glad it's done as well as it has. I think it might actually be doing better right now than Snowpiercer did comparatively.
That's true.
Potentially. Yeah. Which is weird, because that movie had Chris Evans in it, and it was English. So.
Yeah, that's. I still need to see Snowpiercer, but I saw Okja by the same director.
Wait, you've seen Okja and Parasite, but you haven't seen Snowpiercer?
Listen, I can't see everything. I try, but I fail.
Snowpiercer was his breakout.
I think The Host was his breakout.
Well,
at least in Korea.
Well, yeah, but Snowpiercer was his international breakout.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you managed to see Okja, but not Snowpiercer.
You listen, I have a talent for seeing weird movies out of order.
I guess. It's like I haven't seen Citizen Kane, but I love Magnificent Ambersons.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there.
I have no idea how you could live in this decade and possibly see those two movies out of order that badly.
As somebody who hasn't seen either one, I'm going to do it on purpose now.
Oh my gosh, you're not setting yourself up for the best experience.
Well, I wouldn't. Okja, I am not a fan of. I really didn't like that movie, actually.
It's the only one of the three I haven't seen. It looked really manipulative.
It is extremely manipulative, extremely preachy, just really heavy-handed, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, that's why I was pretty nervous to go into Parasite for that reason. I was like, is his career going forward just going to be like the low-rent John Carpenter, who's just like extremely preachy about everything he does? But no, Parasite's like a good John Carpenter movie. Yeah, it's actually
Parasite is very deftly handled. Also, I think it's, I feel like John Carpenter is the low-rent version of John Carpenter. He never really had a big budget, but he did what he could.
I don't know, The Thing's pretty great.
Oh, The Thing is fantastic. No, I'm saying he made good movies, but like for not a lot. Anyways, moving on to my number 12 because I feel like I've already talked too much about these. I'll try to speed it up. Number 12 is Brittany Runs a Marathon. This is not a movie I expected to be anywhere close to the top when I watched it, but kind of similar to what I was saying about yesterday. It really it really understood its story and took it to every logical conclusion, and I really appreciated it because it went places I didn't expect it to, and when I expected it to stop and have like the cliche ending, it kept going and made it more interesting. And it's just it was really smartly written in that way. But yeah, you guys can jump in at any time if you have thoughts.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen any of these yet.
Man,
of the two of us, I'm roughly as big of a cinephile as you are, so I'm surprised that I haven't caught a lot of the things you found.
Yeah.
Usually I'm the guy who's recommending random things, and you're finding stuff I haven't seen. People are texting me again.
How dare you be popular on your own show?
I'm just texting back a smiley face.
Number 11 is my second documentary of this top 15. It's a Netflix-produced movie called American Factory. You may know it because it was distributed by Barack and Michelle Obama's production company. It also just got a Best Documentary nomination. It's on Netflix for anybody to watch. It is an awesome look at cultural relations in this, and it's set in this factory outside Dayton, Ohio, that got shut down during the economic crisis about 10 years ago, and it talks about the community, how it was impacted by that, and then it tracks the entire process of this Chinese company buying the building, putting its company in there, and hiring people in the community, as well as putting in some of the people from their company from China, and it just really is a great look about cultural relations, and just kind of that culture shock that working with different people from different backgrounds can give you. And I don't know, it was just really fascinating to me. If you've ever seen the movie Gung Ho from the 80s with Michael Keaton, it's kind of a real life version of that.
Okay, I had not known that the Obama's films had started premiering on Netflix yet. Yeah.
American Factory, check it out. It's definitely an interesting watch.
Honestly, I was kind of mixing that up with another documentary I had heard of earlier this year on Netflix. It's like, I think it's like The Family or something. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a documentary about like the supposedly incestuous relationship between the church and government.
No, I don't think I have heard of that.
Yeah, I almost reviewed it for Legal Insurrection because the premise was egregious, but it's like 10 hours long, and I was like, I don't have patience for this crap.
Yeah, that's a big investment. The only like documentary I've watched that was long was OJ Made in America, the like 8-hour ESPN one. That was really good.
That was the one everyone was talking about a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. It came out at the same time as like the OJ TV show, which I didn't see, but I really liked the documentary series.
Lo and behold, OJ Simpson's on Twitter now, so.
And apparently threatening people.
Oh my gosh!
It is beautiful Twitter.
something that I had nothing to do with, but
you should join Twitter. I am much more fun on Twitter than I am on Facebook.
Oh, I should follow your Twitter.
Oh, you should. It's a beautiful thing.
I am expecting.
JonTron did an amazing video about OJ's work video.
I love those. Oh man, that was so funny.
It was really funny. Anyways, continuing to move, we are now in my top 10. I'm using my pilot voice. I don't know why, because I can't think of any correlation. But here we go. Number 10, The Irishman.
Good.
I sat through 3 hours and 40 minutes and was not disappointed. It's, first half was like classic Scorsese, it felt like Goodfellas. It felt like he hadn't lost a step in 30 years. And then he, like, for the second half, he really turned it into something that I think he's become over time as he's gotten older as a filmmaker. It was more pensive. It was just a look back on what a life of that kind of classic gangster vibe that Scorsese is known for, what that will do to you as you get older. And it was so perfectly handled as on both sides, and as it progressed, it was just I don't know. I'm trying to think of what this is, like, his best movie since. I'd say maybe The Departed.
I mean, that's a pretty tall statement, because I'd say this decade he's given us 3 really, really good films relative to the entirety of the filmography.
I forgot about Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah,
and Silence.
I'm not the biggest fan of Silence. Silence was a little too long and dull for me. I enjoy long and dull movies.
If I were more of an edgelord, I would have just hung up the Skype call right then, but...
excuse my opinions.
Do it for the bit.
Alright, number 9 is Rian Johnson's new movie, Knives Out. It's interesting because I'm a huge mystery fan. I went through a big Agatha Christie phase when I was younger, and like I've always loved mysteries. I grew up reading the Hardy Boys, a bunch of stuff like that. And what's interesting about Knives Out is, like, it's pretty much a run-of-the-mill whodunit story. There's nothing terribly special about it, but the twists and turns that he does are just so... you can tell he's so in love with the genre that you can tell he made a movie that he wanted to see, and as a result, I think everybody should see, because it's good fun, it's well told, it's beautifully shot, like the production design of that house is amazing, if you love a mystery, like, this is the best one in years.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I would say it's weird in that the film feels like it's entirely like a standard mystery thriller, yet at the same time it's kind of not, because it starts out making you think that they've basically resolved the crime within about 20 minutes of the movie starting, and then it just keeps taking you on turns as to what the actual story is, until by the end it just completely recontextualizes itself.
It's amazing how he managed to make a film so fresh, yet so I don't know what's the word, not classic per se, but just timeless, I guess.
Also, the least flattering depiction of white rich people since Get Out. So
I was gonna say since Ready or Not.
Oh, well, I actually hadn't seen that one yet, but
it's the entire, like, message of that movie is F rich people.
Eat the rich.
Well, there you go.
Which, everybody has their own opinions about, but it was like I said about Okja. If it's heavy-handed, no matter what the message is, it's gonna annoy me.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be subtle with your message, guys.
Well, Knives Out had
filmmakers.
Knives Out had a lot of subtext to it, so. But...
Oh, it did, but it was a lot better handled than a lot of other movies.
Oh yeah.
And plus, it was entertaining the whole time.
Well, there you go. I mean, you can't say that about a lot of movies.
Exactly. All right, number 8 is to me, the head and shoulders the best horror movie of 2019, and I do love horror, and that's Midsommar. I'm curious to see what you think, because you mentioned something about it earlier that didn't seem like
I didn't see it.
The biggest fan of it. Oh!
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be a heretic here and say I didn't like Hereditary all that much when I saw it, so...
Yes.
I know you're disappointed in me. I know I'm a horrible, bad person. I should cut myself off my own podcast.
Hereditary is.
You're allowed to have opinions. I'm surprised, because that's one of my favorite movies of that year.
Not a bad movie. It just didn't work for me in a way I was hoping for it to. So
that's fair.
And when I saw the trailer for Midsommar, I'm like, okay, it's the same director, different concept, but I'm not sure where this is going. And the things I was hearing from the critics were saying it made it sound very footloose, and I didn't quite know where it was going. So
it's definitely sprawling, I guess might be the right word. If you've ever seen The Wicker Man, that's I'm not the first to make that comparison. It's a very apt comparison.
That doesn't make me want to see it.
The original, not the Nicolas Cage one.
There is only the Nicolas Cage one.
Oh my gosh, no, the one with Christopher Lee and Edward Woodward.
May he rip in peace.
You're talking about Nicolas Cage at first.
Where it's
just
Nicolas
Cage rip in peace. Signs of the Cross.
It's just at times very lackadaisical, but still just always bizarre. Every shot of that. This movie made me want to quit film school because it was so good. It was one of those movies where it's just I'm never gonna be as talented as this director. The way he composes his shots is just he's such a visionary. And I will forever, I will go see every movie Ari Aster makes, because he is just such a master of his craft. Between Hereditary and this, I'm just, he blows my mind with some of the shots he creates. And it's almost discouraging as a film student, because it's just I bow down at his throne.
There you go. Do we know what his next movie is? Is he going to be doing another one with the same people?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything, but I look forward to it, whatever it is.
Yeah, kind of hope it's not a David Mitchell Roberts situation. David Robert Mitchell, the guy who did It Follows.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of hope it wouldn't be in a situation like that.
Yeah, I didn't see. He made a movie. It technically came out. Under the Silver Lake. It's been on my list. I probably would have watched it had it not technically come out last year.
It didn't get its official release till this year, though.
Or
so
2018, rather. Excuse me. But yeah, that's one I really want to see, because I loved It Follows as well.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those movies where it's a very different kind of thing than It Follows is. It's essentially like a burnt out millennial noir, as opposed to a horror film, but it also has a gratuitous amounts of nudity, which I've shown that movie to a few friends, and they've all been like, "I'm not used to seeing this much nudity in my films, Tyler."
My virgin eyes.
I have to bleach my eyes now. It's a good movie, though.
Well, there's absolutely no good transition to my number 7 film after that. How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, I saw that.
Well, those dragons were sure naked, huh?
They sure were. Loved every minute
It's like
of it.
saying all of the dogs in all of my favorite movies are naked. What the heck does that mean?
I mean, technically.
Lady and the Tramp is a nudist film.
Well,
They
anyways.
have collars.
Please break the silence after that comment.
How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World. It's the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. I enjoyed the first 2. I wasn't crazy about them. This one, I'm crazy about. It touched every part of me that, well, maybe not the right way to go after the previous conversation.
It was fine until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
was a blind-esque
like
gaff.
it was. It was
Show
just
me
the
on the
perfect
doll where the
blend
movie
of,
touched you.
It was the perfect blend of comedy and heart, and it really felt like. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other. This is one of the few DreamWorks movies I've seen that is Pixar quality. Like, to me, there are like definitely two tiers, and Pixar is usually considerably better than DreamWorks, at least from what I've seen. This felt Pixar quality, and I really loved it.
I still prefer the first film to either of the sequels, honestly.
Same. I thought 3 was kind of boring.
Really?
I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was just weird how much time had passed since the last one. It was like a 5 to 6 year gap.
Well, I think they needed to be like, all that stuff that happened in the middle we're accounting for, but like, we're not going to address it.
I feel like that happened between the first and second ones too. Time had passed.
Time had passed, but not that much time.
There was like 3, maybe 4 years, and then there was 20. Then it was
They're like young adults
2014
in 3.
to 2019. So 5
Yeah.
years.
No, but I'm saying, I thought you meant like in the story.
That's what. I
Oh no,
thought as
well, there's some time gaps in the story, but not like that. So
Yeah, but I think like I hadn't seen like I probably saw the first 2 in like 2015 or something like that. So like time had passed for me as well. So I don't know. It felt natural to me.
Yeah, I felt like 1 was I loved the first How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. 2 and 3 made me realize that essentially How to Train Your Dragon 1 is a not that interesting story with dragons.
I think.
And so it's kind of like,
I mean, I think it's pretty well known that like the first one is like it's a boy and his dog story, but with a dragon.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
well, I think the first one's strengths come from how the story is told more so than what the story is, because like
Also, the soundtrack is phenomenal.
Yes,
And
it is.
It never reaches those heights in any of the sequels.
good soundtrack.
Oh man, I love the music in the third one.
It's good. It's just not How to Train Your Dragon 1.
That's fair. I really like the music in all 3. I don't know if I could choose my favorite.
That's fair. It is weird that the DreamWorks sequels just take so long to finish for some reason. Like, remember how we got Kung Fu Panda 3 like 5 years after the second one?
Which all 3 Kung Fu Panda movies are really good too. Like those are 2 really good trilogies.
Oh yeah.
Between. Excuse me.
Honestly, I would say I prefer the Kung Fu Panda trilogy to the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, as apocryphal as that sounds.
I think I would agree. I mean, I also didn't like 2 or 3, so.
I
thought 2 and 3 for Kung Fu Panda were pretty good.
If only just because I think that Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3 have like a continuous story between the 3 of them.
That's true.
At least for Poe, not necessarily with the other characters, but
Yeah, they keep building on
I don't know.
it
I think
different ways.
personally, I think there's more of a continuous story in How to Train Your Dragon. But I can't claim to be like huge fans of either franchise. But this movie in particular just really stood out to me.
guys, we're now the Kung Fu Panda 3 fan club.
It's a good movie.
Fun story. I bought there was a family video I bought a bunch of dollar posters at, and one of them is a, roughly speaking, 6 to 8 foot wide Kung Fu Panda 3 poster.
Nice.
That I haven't found a home for, but eventually I'm going to leave it somewhere special.
Yeah. In some ways, I wanted to dislike Kung Fu Panda 3. I don't know why, but I wanted to dislike it. And I was like, nah, it's decent.
Well, the characters that aren't Poe or the other pandas are kind of lame.
Oh, that's true. But I mean, that's kind of always been true.
I mean, they were fine in the first movie, but after that, they just kind of fell into the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen either of the other ones. I think it was last year that I finally watched Kung Fu Panda 3.
That movie just sticks out to me because it came out during an insane movie drought back in 2016.
Yeah.
So I was just like, the best movie of the year is Kung Fu Panda 3. Do better, year.
by last year I mean 2018, not 2019.
Well, I was talking about 2016.
I know you were, but I said last year, and it's 2020 now, so
It's
I gotta get my.
It's true, but
Andrew. It's always the current year.
It's always it's true, but
it's the current year plus 5.
That's man, I remember that. Callbacks.
All right.
Go ahead.
Moving on to another animated movie. I'm hoping you guys have seen because it's on Netflix again. Klaus.
Nope.
I've been meaning to. I've been told by so many people it's really good.
Please do. It is an instant Christmas classic for me. It's just such a sweet, like perfectly Christmassy story.
I was actually just thinking about how hard it is to actually organically make good Christmas movies recently. Like, first off, most Christmas movies, upon any sort of critical analysis, aren't actually good. Like,
fair.
I mean, I will never.
It's a Wonderful Life being an exception.
Which one?
It's a Wonderful Life is definitely an exception.
Well, obviously, but if I were to be cruel and put like Jingle All the Way under a critical examination.
You don't have to be very cruel to.
You don't have to be very
get
cruel.
that movie.
I don't want to be cruel to Jingle All the Way. I have friends who like Jingle All the Way. I'm just making a point. Most Christmas movies are not great movies in and of themselves, and it's
I've
really
got something
hard.
That'll get me crucified. I hate Elf.
I can understand why. Christmas movies.
It's interesting that you say that because I was just about to say I feel like this gives it less weight. What I was about to say.
I was going to
Elf,
say but
the best Christmas movie since Elf.
No.
Well, that's the thing. Most of these Christmas movies are like normie picks. Most people people will watch them like once a year and be like, "Oh, I love that movie. I'll watch it again on television in the background." Like most people aren't being scrupulous about it. Although the guy who made Elf is now in charge of the most successful television show at Disney, so...
It's true. I don't know. I like Elf. I love Klaus. It's,
I wanted to watch Klaus. I didn't have time to watch it before Christmas, and I'm like, what, do I need to wait a year? Should I wait a year? I don't know.
You don't have to. I don't know.
Isn't it illegal to watch Christmas movies in the wrong time of year? I don't know. It's like that joke from Charlie Brown Easter where they go into the Macy's around Easter time and they've already got the Christmas setup on. Did you ever see that one?
Which isn't even weird at this
point.
point.
I don't think so.
That's just what happens.
That was the one where they're trying to make the Easter eggs and Darcy keeps like doing horrible things to the eggs, like making them into scrambled eggs or not boiling them properly.
That sounds like Charlie Brown. Those movies are bizarre.
Oh yeah, I kind of love it. There's
always some interesting choices in there.
There's always an undercurrent of nihilism to Charlie Brown that I really appreciate. So
that's true.
It's very true. It's very, very true.
It's not even all that undercurrent.
I did read a couple of years ago. I read the biography of Charles Schulz, and they talked about how in the book how he was declared in the 1950s to be one of the greatest existentialists of his time, and when he asked what he meant, he didn't know what that meant. He was just writing from the heart.
Yeah.
I love Charles Schulz.
Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Anyway.
All right. Taking a temporary break from animated movies. My number 5 is Jojo Rabbit.
Fair enough.
Which I saw it relatively early on, like before its wide release. I just happened to be traveling back from Richmond, and it was showing in a kind of a bigger city. Or, sorry, I was traveling back from Williamsburg. It was showing in Richmond, and so it was only a limited release then. So I saw it relatively early, fell in love with it, did not at all expect the backlash. It came out of nowhere for me.
Was there a serious backlash to that movie? I don't know.
It seems like it. There's a lot of people that think it shouldn't be joked about. And I'm just like, there are so many movies making fun of Nazis. Why is Nazism not okay to joke about?
Like,
I feel like that's what Hitler would want.
Hitler would not have liked Taika being played by a Polynesian Jew. So, I'm just sitting here watching that movie, and like, the entire point of the movie is about how deprogramming Nazism is a good thing.
Right.
Like, that movie is so on the anti-side, the side against Nazism. I don't know how you watch it and be like, I can't believe you're doing this!
I know. It completely... It blindsided me how many people were kind of against this movie, because it's such a harmless movie, really. Like, the message of the movie is, like, find joy in life, you know? It's such a movie about, like, loving each other, and everybody's hating on it before they even see it.
Maybe those are the same people that are like, you can't show Birth of a Nation now. People will think it's true. People will follow it. I'm like, what kind? It's like people would actually like be taken in by like Triumph of the Will or something nowadays.
Let's just assume that people have upwards of 4 brain cells, and then we can discuss with the people who don't.
What's that? Wasn't there a Norm Macdonald joke about that? Something like that, being like, hey, I don't know if you heard about him, but I just found about this great guy on the History Channel. His name's Hitler.
Oh my gosh, yeah. His World War II joke is incredible.
The Hitler's dog one, or?
No, the one where he's just like, you know, he's talking about like Germany. They were fixing to start a war, so they just chose as their opponent the world. And you'd think that it would be over pretty quickly, the world versus Germany, but it was actually close. It's such a great joke.
What special is that from? I need to watch this.
I'm trying to remember if it was a special. I know he did it on some talk shows. I think he did it on like his last appearance on Letterman.
Oh my gosh!
I love Norm Macdonald.
Are any of his specials on Netflix? I need to get this.
Hitler's Dog is on Netflix.
All right, I need to spend.
And also his talk show. Norm Macdonald has a show.
All right. I mean, I was talking with my buddy Steve, and I was admitting fully that one thing I'm very, very bad at is keeping track of stand-up comedy. Like, I think
there's a lot of them.
Well, yeah, I think the only newer one I've seen in the past couple of years is Sticks and Stones, and it's just because everyone was talking about it.
If you're gonna keep track of somebody, you gotta keep track of Chappelle.
Yeah.
I think I watched like 20 minutes of that.
They keep telling me to stop taking the jokes, but I can't stop. That was pretty good. I mean, I appreciate the edgelord factor. So,
I mean, that's Chappelle. He's gonna speak from the heart, and he's gonna talk about his opinions, and no matter how the world as a whole or culture feels about it.
This year is the election, everyone, and it's the responsibility of every black man in America to go out and get a gun.
So my number 4 is...
I approve. I approve this message.
Go ahead. My number 4 is something that I haven't seen near anybody's top 10 list, and I think it's probably because most people just don't consider it. Batman Hush, the animated movie.
Okay.
It's the best Batman movie since Dark Knight. Arguably the best... Well, no. Except for Logan, maybe the best superhero movie since The Dark Knight.
Really?
That
ranks so high for you.
Okay, it's a combination of it being, really well done, and it was new to me. I hadn't read the Batman Hush comic. So this story was brand new to me, pretty much. I knew vague things, and actually from what I've heard from people who have read the comic, they actually changed those things. So this was completely fresh to me, and it just felt like the perfect Batman story. They had the entire, pretty much the entire Rogues Gallery had a part in it. But they were just so well handled how they just bounced in and out of the story. And his relationship with Catwoman throughout this is super well developed. It's a perfect Batman story.
I have such a mixed relationship to those those one-off DC animated movies. Every time
Most of them are really good.
Well, every time I try to jump back into them, I always jump on like an absolutely abysmal one. It's like I remember I stopped watching. I stopped watching for a while, and I randomly jumped on The Killing Joke. And I'm
okay.
And then I stopped for a while, and I tried. Okay, I'll try again. And I tried Death of Superman. I'm like, well, this is as stupid as the comics, so I'm not into it.
Death of Superman is pretty well done.
I don't know.
Considered.
I also don't like the Death of Superman comics, so I would call me apocryphal.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, then you might have kind of brought your own stuff to that party.
Yeah, but I actually kind of like the Doomsday movie, the one from like the when they first started those independent ones. But I kind of liked the fact that one still had the animated style of the Justice League cartoon, so it still kind of had its own visual identity and its own story.
That's true. If there's one flaw to Batman Hush, it is, it is still in that kind of.
I don't like their house
average style of animation.
I don't.
Me, like the animation is, the animation doesn't have to be good to support that story.
Well, DC's got such a specific house style now that they all look the same.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's why I think you have to base it on the story.
It's colorful and it's crisp and it's the same in every single movie, and it looks cheap when you see it so frequently and in stories that have nothing thematically to do with one another. So
you're not wrong.
You're
not wrong at all.
So it's frustrating to me. I would like those stories more if they did more weird things. Like my fan fiction-y wish for those guys would be to like take canceled DC projects like the Nick Cage Superman story or stuff like that we would never ever get to see normally, and adapt that using that style, because those are stories we would never see. But the scripts exist out there. Like there's a script for a George Miller Justice League movie that we never got to see. Warner Brothers has it. Let's make it into an animated movie.
True. Or we could just watch The Death of Superman Lives.
Well, yeah, that too. I like the documentary.
Which is a great documentary.
Like that made me want to see like an animated version of the Nick Cage story. Like that's an interesting story. Even if it wouldn't have been a good live action movie, it would have been. It's interesting. It's interesting to see like recreations of films that could have been. So I would just want them to be more experimental and take more risks instead of just keep adapting the same most popular New 52 Justice League storylines over and over again. So
I think that's a good idea, and I think I'd be interested to see what they did with that, if anything. Anyways, I need to wrap up my segment so you guys can talk. Number 3 is Marriage Story, another Netflix movie. They have absolutely killed it this year. It just maybe like objectively, in my opinion, the best. Well, that's an oxymoron. But like maybe the best movie of the year, all things considered. Like the script is incredible, the acting is bonkers good, the direction is perfect. The Randy Newman's score is gorgeous. Like this movie is structurally perfect. The only reason it's number 3 is I'll explain when I get to those. But anyways, Marriage Story, it is an incredible moving film, and it's it's hard to watch at moments, but it's also so uplifting at moments. It's such a bittersweet movie. I loved it.
That's fair. I mean, the only real critiques I've heard of it are moral critiques, so that's usually a good sign.
That was my mom's critique of it. She's just like, but it should be called Divorce Story, not Marriage Story. I'm just like, well, okay, but like you're missing the point.
Yeah, I mean, I've also heard critiques saying that the story doesn't necessarily have the most equanimity in terms of how the characters act. And some there's arguments that either the wife was worse to him or the guy was worse to the wife, or it really just depends on your perspective, I guess.
I was gonna say, I think the fact that people are coming away with differing opinions is part of the reason it's great, because like, if it's that even, told that like people are coming away, with their own perspective on it. I think like this is a movie to project on, but also watch unfold in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the movie benefits from like making the characters relatively they were relatively on good terms from the outset, and just watching them spiral.
It's incredible how like this movie is essentially based on the director's own divorce. And yet he's so, I guess, fair to both characters.
I'm assuming that's Baumbach's first marriage, because I know he's married to Greta Gerwig now.
He's actually not married to her, but they've been partners for years.
Really? I thought they were... Okay, I thought they were actually married.
They've been together for years, but no, he was originally married to the actress Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Okay, interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this movie is essentially about their divorce, and it just, my goodness, I respect Joaquin Phoenix's performance, and I know he's probably going to get the Oscar, but personally, I feel Adam Driver's performance was so much better.
The part of me that wants to watch The World Burns really hopes that the Joker wins the Best Picture the Oscar.
I really hope not.
It doesn't deserve it, but I don't care about the Oscars as an institution either way. So I'm just sitting here like, all of the worst people online would have an absolute meltdown in the same way they did when Green Book won last year. I'm just sitting here like... I'm like, and anyone who actually cares would be like, oh no, the incel movie is won Best Picture. The world's gonna blow up now. But...
Yeah. Anyways.
I mean, I also don't think Joker is a Best Picture deserving, but whatever.
I agree with you. There's a couple movies that were nominated that I don't think deserved it, and that's one of them. Anyways, so there are two movies that I thought were better than that essentially perfect movie. That's number two is kind of more for just personal reasons. It made me happier. And that's the Peanut Butter Falcon. Sorry, pause for cough.
Yeah, I saw it. I couldn't stop it. It was just kind of making...
You're good. I was hoping somebody would vamp, but that's all good.
I didn't see it, so I had nothing to say.
Yeah, but I can make it so you can't see him even worse than now if you want. But
no. I mean, I didn't see the movie. I saw that he was about to cough.
Oh,
but all I could pipe in with was something stupid.
Here, let me move the pop filter again. I don't want you
to... have you seen this, Tyler?
I saw it was floating around a couple months ago, but I did not... I was hearing good things about it, but I never got around to watching it.
It is fantastic. It is just, like... You guys should both see it. It's such a perfectly sweet story, with such an unlikely lead, and I wish I remembered it. It's Zach something, but this actor with Down syndrome, that's essentially the lead of this movie, and he's great in it. And Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson are both great at supporting him. It's just such a sweet little adventure movie, and I don't know, there's so many things they could have done wrong with that, with him as their main character, and they just did everything right, and it warmed my soul to see that happen in a major motion picture. And plus the story is really interesting and fun, and it's really well written and well directed, and I just loved everything about it, and it made me so happy coming away from the theater.
That's fair.
So yeah, that was my happy pick. Number one is, I guess, the cultural pick. Like this to me is just like, I don't know if there's ever going to be a movie like this ever again.
If you say Rise of Skywalker, I'm going to kill you right now.
Because of all that led up to it. It's not Rise of Skywalker, but it is Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
All right.
I I don't know what they could have done better with this movie, with all that led into it. To me, like, it was just... we've seen so many other franchises have plans to build and just flop after, one bad movie. The MCU, say what you will about it, everybody, has their own opinions. Not all of them are great movies, but they're all fairly consistently well-made movies. Some definitely better than others. To have a movie come out after 11 years of our market being saturated with this movie and manage to finish that saga in a way that it did, that is, for the most part, in a society where everybody has to find something to hate, like, this was pretty universally liked, if not loved. I haven't heard anybody that hate this movie. People have critiques. But the fact that a movie this big doesn't have, like, a massive Twitter hatred is, at least that I know about, is something noteworthy. And I think that's, there's no way it couldn't be number one of this year because of the incredible feat that it pulled off.
I think it's a little dumb. I mean, it's definitely, it's absolutely a very impressive feat, but I don't personally give it extra points because of its impressive feat. Like, I don't give it any passes. I think there are lots of things that don't work. I think there are character arcs that are fulfilled in the wrong way, and that frustrates me. But otherwise, I think it's I certainly think it's a decent film. I just think it's a little dumb.
I would agree with the criticism of the incorrect resolution to character arcs being my biggest frustration.
It's definitely my biggest one. And I always have frustrations when things deal with time travel inconsistently, and that's just how you're going to deal with time travel, so it's almost not a fair criticism, but I still think you can't, especially for something like Endgame that tried to set up rules. It'd be one thing if they just were like, yeah, time travel, whatever, who cares? But they tried to set up do's and don'ts of time travel, and then they were just like, we won't.
Fair. And I should clarify, I don't think this movie is perfect. It's not. There were things that really annoyed me the first time I watched it. It's not technically as good as some of my others on this list, I think. But for as good as it was on the scope that it was, it's number one for me.
That's fair. I mean, I know a lot of people that have that as their number one of the year, so I get it. 7 out of 10 could have been worse.
Oh, it could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
It could have been a lot worse. It could have been Rise of Skywalker.
Your favorite movie of the year.
Honestly,
so what do you guys?
Not my least favorite movie of the year, surprisingly enough, but...
Do we need to dedicate a segment to talk about Rise of Skywalker?
Probably, honestly.
I honestly don't have very many opinions on it.
I have so many opinions.
That is true.
I have so many opinions.
I'm happy to, like...
Tell you what.
I could probably talk for 3 hours just about my opinions of Rise of Skywalker, because that movie was such a mess that...
It was very forgettable for me, and that's why I just don't have very many opinions.
As somebody who, like... I wouldn't consider myself a hardcore Star Wars fan, but I would consider myself a Star Wars fan. And I just... In my mind, there's so much disservice that's done by the entirety of the sequel trilogy that is exemplified most clearly in Rise of Skywalker.
Did you see the piece I did on Ben Solo a couple days ago?
I don't know that I did. In fact, I'm almost sure I didn't.
Alright, I did one of my Flawed Faith pieces on his redemption moment in Rise of Skywalker.
Literally moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, I actually kind of extrapolated rather significantly on the theological implications of that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm probably the biggest Star Wars fan I know. I'm literally trying to schedule a plane trip in the next week so I can go visit Galaxy's Edge in the next couple months.
Oh, dude, that looks so cool.
Is it because I got a $200 voucher for Southwest Airlines I got to burn? So I'm like,
Yo,
thank you.
that's nice.
Well, that's what happens when they cancel your flight to New York at 11 p.m. at night. So they have to apologize in some way.
That's a nice apology.
Well, was it? It was.
Usually, I just get an apology.
Well, yeah, I took a little bit of chewing out of this the Southwest clerk at midnight. So, but there.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, there you go. So now I gotta work out the logistics of how I'm gonna to get one of those $200 lightsabers back on the plane home. So, but yeah, and I didn't hate Rise of Skywalker. It's just watching it. I'm just faced with the existential realization of what, like, this is. I find this to be a movie that's roughly on par with the prequels for good and ill. So I think there are some elements of the structure that still work within the trilogy, but as a whole, I would say it's really disappointing and mostly just frustrating to me more than anything else. Like, I don't want to reserve all the hatred that I'm seeing it for it online, where you see people who are like, Star Wars is officially dead. There's nothing. You don't come back from a movie this bad. It's now been ruined by Kathleen Kennedy. Like, there are some people that are going way farther than I ever go.
That really is the rhetoric, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which I'm not there, by the way.
It makes me appreciate Last Jedi infinitely more. So
I
Last
think
Jedi is still my
genuinely
second
good.
or third favorite Star Wars movie.
I think it's in my top half. I think it's genuinely good.
Yeah, as a movie, it is one of the better ones. As a Star Wars movie, it screws the other movies over.
See, I don't feel that way.
I think its intention to derail the overall storyline was done so with a thematic purpose, not just a middle finger.
Yeah, well,
I
honestly,
think that's fair.
And watching, I recently watched through everything. Personally, I think The Last Jedi feels more like Star Wars than either The Force Awakens or Rise of Skywalker, which is weird because The Force Awakens just is A New Hope.
Well, I think part of it just comes down to the subtleties. Like, I think the most Star Wars-y movie in all of these new trilogies is the Yoda scene from Last Jedi.
Yes.
Like, that's one of the only times where it feels like it's almost exactly recreating the tone and style of the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's arguably in the moment that's most thematically antagonistic towards the rest of the movies. So, at least in theory, because it's like, everything has failed. It's okay to fail.
I guess
I really liked the point brought up by a critic I really like called William Bibbiani. I don't know if either of you are familiar.
No.
He said that, like, like, the reason Rise of Skywalker is not good is because Rian Johnson set up an improv game where he was expecting the next film to go yes and J.J. Abrams went no but.
Yeah.
And that's a really good way to put it.
And a lot of people are blaming The Last Jedi for that, for setting up, a yes and when it's really
fair, yeah.
Rise of Skywalker's fault for going no but to everything Last Jedi set up.
Yes and no. I mean, there are elements in Rise of Skywalker that are clearly carrying on themes from Last Jedi, namely when they go back to Ahch-To, the Luke Skywalker island planet, when Rey almost completely decides to reenact the plot of the Last Jedi by herself.
I mean, that was still in The Force Awakens, though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think
sometimes I wonder if J.J. Abrams watched The Last Jedi.
I don't think he's watched the prequels. I think he's watched the first Star Wars film and E.T. 55,000 times and he hasn't seen any of the movies because the guy doesn't seem to have any other frames to reference for his films.
Yeah.
I think he deserves a bit more credit, but this is not his finest work. To prove otherwise.
It's worth noting this film, A, was written by the guy who wrote Batman vs. Superman. B, was produced in about 18 months or something crazy like that.
That's true.
And it had crazy amounts reshot in the last few months of its production.
Well,
maybe.
Unfortunately, it was a response to internet backlash, which no movie should ever have to do.
No.
Well,
I don't care how much hate a movie gets. Make your damn movie.
Well, the problem is apparently
I tend to agree.
Did you read the leaked Colin Trevorrow script that came on Twitter in the last couple of days, or that's been leaking for the past couple of days?
No.
There's a point-by-point breakdown of what the movie would have looked like had Colin Trevorrow actually taken it to filming, and the world building is kind of better, but the plot details don't actually add up to a story that would have felt necessarily all that cathartic. Mm-hmm. And I can kind of see reasons why Disney were like, okay, let's bring J.J. Abrams back.
Oh, absolutely.
But supposedly, J.J. Abrams' original cut has just all this insane crap in it. They brought Mortis back from the Clone Wars. So...
Interesting.
I don't know who that is.
Did you ever watch the Clone Wars cartoon?
No.
Okay, Mortis is really complicated and esoteric to actually explain. He's essentially a dark force god from outside of time and space. And apparently Matt Smith was supposed to play his son. And I have no idea how you explain this to a normie. I can only imagine Disney was like,
no.
Cut.
I mean, it makes complete sense that they brought J.J. Abrams back. He is the safest choice. He's the safest choice since Ron Howard.
Have you noticed that the final, a couple of the final action beats on Exegol, are almost point for point the same action beats from the end of Endgame?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was thinking it felt more like Return of the Jedi.
It's a combination of the two. I would say it definitely favors Endgame more than...
I mean, the hyperspace fleet kind of rivals the portal, it parallels the portal's shot. Mm-hmm. The final conclusion between Rey and Palpatine kind of has the same beats as the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man
That's
beat.
Fair.
It's weird how much they line up in a pacing and theme sense. I don't know why they did.
That's what happens when movies make money. Their committees come together to figure out what formula made that money and how to replicate it.
But these are two separate films in two separate studios being shot at the exact same time.
And if you're looking for a formula for a movie, you're probably doing it wrong.
Well, that formula, yes, but still...
but it still makes money.
Yeah, no.
And that's what they're going for.
This would be like if The Lion King had been reshot with the same action and beats as Endgame.
I thought you were going to say that the same action and beats as the original Lion King. And I was like, man, imagine that.
Although I had noticed recently, everyone was mad at Jon Favreau, or at least mad at people that were making Lion King 6 months ago. And now no one cares about Lion King, and everyone just wants him to be in control of the entire Star Wars universe now.
Well,
what I kind of like about Lion King is, I have this weird theory that was Jon Favreau's experiment to himself, to just be like, I wonder what'll happen if I actually give fans what they think they want. Which is the same thing.
You get $2 billion gross, so...
You get money and hate.
Well, I refuse to see it just on moral grounds, because it's the same friggin' movie. I can't imagine they actually changed all that much.
How do you know it if you haven't seen it?
Because I've listened to people I trust, and they said it's exactly the same.
I think you should make your own opinions, because there is stuff, there is enjoyable stuff about it. I buck against anybody that makes up their mind about a movie without having seen it.
The best thing I heard about that movie is that there's some speculation that they might be you're preparing the technology that they'd be used in that and Jungle Book to make an original movie, which, holy crap, I would love to see an original movie with technology that good being used in it, those animal models and that stuff. But I'm so sick of the live action remakes at this point. I barely want to go see them. I didn't see Dumbo. I didn't see Lady and the Tramp either. So
I haven't seen Lady and the Tramp yet, but they have varying quality. Cinderella is still probably the best of them.
Lady and the Tramp reminds me of like an early 2000s dog movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Shaggy Dog or Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah, like I
feel that.
Like it's really weird seeing it in any context in modern day. Like, it reminds me of like when they did the live action 102 Dalmatian movies. I'm like,
those are great. I love those.
I haven't seen them in so long. I'm afraid, but like
you should be.
Like,
I remember liking those.
It's that weird style of like 1990s, early 2000 movie that they just don't make anymore because it would be ill-advisable. But
yeah, that kind of makes me want to see it more, honestly. Anyways, I want to hear your guys' list.
All right.
Mandalorian is good. Anyway,
Mandalorian is good, although I haven't seen that much of it, admittedly.
Mandalorian was pretty good.
Mandalorian for Best Picture.
I'd be down.
Whoever's hand was inside Baby Yoda should get the best actor.
I don't
nomination.
like that phrasing.
Did you ever see the Scrubs joke where it's just like, yes, Mr. Muppet, I think I found the problem. There appears to be a hand inside you. That explains so much. Yeah, you can go ahead and do your round.
All right.
Actually, you do your round. I desperately need to grab my water bottle because I finished my wine earlier. So
excellent.
I like that we're continuing the theme of saying something incredibly awkward before moving on to the next pick.
Exactly. On a related
I don't think that's awkward. I like wine. I'm taking my headphones off, so I'm not going to.
I don't think that's what he was referring to.
Oh. Well, it can be awkward because wine is delicious.
Wine is delicious. I think he was referring to the Muppet joke.
Oh, that's a great... Scrubs is great.
Yeah, so I'm going to be going in reverse order from my least favorite movies up. Starting off with Captain Marvel, and that's basically all I have to say about it.
Racist.
That's fair.
Doesn't... Hold on.
It's the most blandly Marvel movie.
Are you doing all the movies you've seen? All 13?
All 13.
Okay, cool. Let's just make sure.
Yeah, so I just... lots of like, nothing huge, but just, it didn't do it. Like, in my opinion, it didn't do anything good or impressive.
Yeah,
it was just
I was going to say...
a Marvel movie.
Yeah. Not terrible, but solid.
Yeah. And I don't usually have a whole lot of respect for movies that don't do anything. Just anything.
Yeah, there's multiple I've seen that fall into that. Like, this movie is a big pile of nothing.
Yeah. I feel similarly about How to Train Your Dragon 3, so that's above Captain Marvel, but still toward the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
Aladdin was much better than it had any right to be in my mind.
Yes.
I still have a moral opposition to all these live-action remakes. The best thing I can say about Aladdin is...
Jasmine?
No.
Oh. Jasmine is the best part of Aladdin, in my opinion.
I think I really like that they had Will Smith be Will Smith. There was no trying to emulate and channel a Robin Williams performance because that would be terrible and it wouldn't work anyway. The worst thing I can say about Aladdin is the blatant padding. Trying to make the film longer so that it's more live-action movie length, and like you don't need that. Fair. One of my favorite movies recently was A Quiet Place, which was a short movie.
I miss 90-minute movies, man.
I have issues with A Quiet Place.
I know you do. We've talked about this.
Logic issues or plot issues?
Both.
Plot hole issues, yeah.
I don't care about plot holes anymore. Plot holes have been ruined me by the internet.
I usually don't either. Like, it's rare that one takes me out of a movie, but this one took me out of it.
I disagree, but this is not about that year.
This is the Quiet Place fan podcast
now. So above Aladdin, I put Six Underground. It's peak Ryan Reynolds.
Fair. I haven't seen it yet.
It's entertaining because it's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, but I mean it's confusing as hell, and
I'm sure it's also Michael Bay being Michael
Bay.
There's
like yes, it is peak Ryan Reynolds and peak Michael Bay, and it has all of the good and bad things that come with that mostly turn out bad.
Not gonna lie, I've been putting it off, but I do want to watch it.
It's entertaining. Like, it's super entertaining, but it's like got 4 flashbacks before you even like. It's a flashback within a flashback within a flashback. It's absurd.
That's how I felt about Suicide Squad. It's just like, before this movie starts, we're gonna give you like a 2-minute like montage of what each of these characters are.
Yeah, but they're treated as like how we got here. So like there's a how we got here that's toward the end of the movie, and then they like flash back, and then in that flashback there's a how we got here there, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Please tell me they say the phrase, "Yep, that's me." Yeah. I bet you're wondering how we got here.
I don't think so, but I wouldn't put it. I could just be misremembering. So yes, above that I put Rise of Skywalker. I have so many opinions, and what I think what really gets me about Rise of Skywalker is there are lots of things that I think could have been cool and could have worked, but they rushed a lot of the character development and a lot of those interesting ideas to pad the movie. Why did you get rid of so many interesting potential ideas to put in nonsense? Like, I don't get it. I don't think I've ever watched a padded movie that felt so rushed.
Yeah. That movie was packed to the brim, and I remember very little of it.
Yeah, like it doesn't give you a chance to digest anything, and it has 5 fake out deaths.
Oh yeah.
It has 5 fake out deaths. I hate that.
I've complained about that a lot.
One.
So you've got
Chewbacca.
You've got Chewbacca.
Right, that's the one I remember.
C-3PO.
Zori Bliss.
Yes. You've got 2 for Kylo Ren. It's just and okay, in my showing, when Kylo Ren, or I guess Ben Solo at that point, when he brought Rey back to life and then died, there was laughter in the theater.
Oh.
People laughed, and it was funny. It had perfect comedic timing. Why did you do that?
It reminds me of like an out of context soap opera clip I saw in The Soup once. It's like, okay. I'm in love with you, kiss, and then immediately falls over dead.
I'm curious, what did you guys think about the kiss? Because to me, that came out of nowhere.
I thought that was what they were building to.
Yeah, I thought that was what they were building to.
Okay, I guess I just did not sense that at all.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about like their romantic chemistry, but I thought from the second film onward they were pretty straightforward. The fact that Raylo was going to be a thing. So
yeah,
maybe I was just in denial.
I mean, I'm agnostic as to whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that seemed like they were what they were going for thematically. So.
I think, in my opinion, you either have that or you have nothing.
Or you just have a plot where Rey straight up kills Kylo.
That's fair.
I feel like there needs to be more male-female platonic relationships.
That's
what I thought
attempts
that was.
At murder.
Finn.
What?
Not repeated attempts at murder. I think repeated attempts at murder are very romantic, but that might be why I'm single currently.
I mean,
anyway, so above Rise of Skywalker...
I can't think of anything that's appropriate to say.
Above Rise of Skywalker, I put Frozen 2.
I haven't seen it yet.
It just tries to be more significant than it should have tried to be. I think that's my biggest complaint. It's funny, and a lot of its jokes are like. I think the big one that I remember is Kristoff is pouring his heart out over his lack of being able to find the courage or the right words to propose to Anna, and then they're like, let's go into a boy band parody, and it's like, whoa, hold on, this is supposed to be an emotional moment for this character. And he turned it into, admittedly, the best joke in the movie, but still, like, could have...
Credit where it's due.
Interesting.
This is the only Frozen content we've gotten since the first movie that's tolerable.
I haven't seen any of it, so...
Yeah, I think I'll
take your word for that.
I think I was probably forced to...
There was that short, that was the very long short before Coco. Yeah. That's all that I've seen.
I was forced to watch that Clockwork Orange style, and I have never forgiven Coco because of it, so...
Don't blame Coco for that.
Well, I'm going to blame Coco for that.
So above Frozen 2 is Glass.
Ugh. How is that above some of the other? How is that above How to Train Your Dragon?
I thought it was decent. It was nice to watch, some of these characters again. I certainly think it's the least of the three that are involved there.
It's just so interesting because that to me was one of the ones I was talking about when I was just like, this movie is a big pile of nothing.
Like, you want to talk about, like, rushing through plot twists like Rise of Skywalker, like, the final 20 minutes
it's
of Glass.
It's got its serious problems. I'm not, and if I were, I wrote this afternoon, so I can't say I wouldn't change my opinion, tomorrow.
It's okay.
I love bad artists who make movies about how great artists are snuffed out by the world. I mean, like, I can't believe they're holding down true artists like M. Night Shyamalan.
I mean, in fairness, I like M. Night Shyamalan more than I should.
I don't hate him, but I never was in love with him. So
I think a lot of it has to do with my siblings. Like, we just collectively have a pretty good love of him, and so it's sort of, there is some bit of nostalgia there.
I have yet to see any of his, like, notoriously bad movies.
Yeah,
so all that I've seen of him is either good or mediocre.
Yeah, the only one of his that
Glass
actually
to me is
stopped,
incredibly mediocre.
No, and it's definitely not. See, I think my thing is, I think Glass is interesting as a setup, but I have no idea what it's setting up, and so maybe there's a part of me, because I always thought that was a negative, but maybe there's a part of me that's giving it more credit because I'm curious as to where it goes. But and also I always love sort of the kind of the superhero stuff that isn't like cliche superhero stuff. That's part of why I like the stuff with superpowers that like isn't overtly, good versus evil. I have this super weapon that's, going to vaporize the entire planet and you'll never stop me, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, above that,
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's like I really liked where they were going with the Bruce Willis storyline. Like, I liked where his character was at the beginning, and then they just like, I kept waiting.
Yeah.
And then the movie ended.
Yeah, no, that's true, and it's possible that if I saw it again, I would have much worse things to say. But at least at the time, I was just kind of excited to see that character again.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't want to take that away from you.
Anyway, so above Glass is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's a jump.
Yep. and
first of all, it feels weird to congratulate you for saying that, but good for you for saying that.
It's mostly because of Tyler.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not opposed to seeing those kinds of movies. I just, like, they don't, in the circles that I am usually, heavily involved, like, I'm just not much of a movie guy.
Yeah. So that's why it surprised me that you saw that, but...
Yeah, no, and for the most part, I really liked it. I thought there's like a half hour towards the end where it's like nothing but narration, and I'm like, why?
This is by far my least favorite Tarantino.
Yeah, I think really? Honestly, I think it's the only one I've seen.
I don't hate it. I'm just massively disappointed with it.
That's fair.
I'm exactly the opposite. I thought this is one of my favorite Tarantinos.
Okay.
Why don't you like it? What's wrong with it to you?
I get that he's making a movie about his like childhood memories of what Hollywood was. I just don't. It wasn't interesting to me. And that's the first time I've ever found a Tarantino movie not interesting. And like the filmmaking was just maybe I do need to give it another chance. Although I don't have, I don't know when I'll have 3 hours.
It's different the second time when you
know. like I said earlier, I don't mind dull, but I have an issue with pointless. And this movie felt pretty pointless.
It's a very laid-back movie where there's a lot of downtime. So I can see someone going into it and being like, it doesn't feel like there's enough happening to warrant the story. But
that's not what I don't need, stuff happening. Like, trust me, like I don't need explosions every 10 minutes. I really don't. I just need something interesting to happen, even if that's dialogue. The dialogue is my favorite thing in a Tarantino movie. He writes amazing dialogue. This dialogue... I'm sorry, I'm trying very hard not to cough.
Yeah.
This dialogue was just... It was so not interesting to me. And it didn't flow like his normal dialogue. And it was just so disappointing to me.
All right.
Ironically enough, I actually, I really enjoyed it up until, I would say, the narration happened, and I was like, this is not interesting to me at all.
Is that when they go to to Italy?
Yeah, like it's just like, hey, we'll just yada yada this, and I understand that's not the point, but I almost feel like it would have been better just be like, he left, he made some movies, he got a wife, he came back, that's it. And then that's 10 seconds instead of I don't even know how long it actually was, but it felt like a very long time. And then also that felt like just a setup so that then they could do the huge action scene at the end, which was honestly the only part that I really liked. See, that...
And I honestly, know most people feel opposite.
So I don't necessarily... I wouldn't necessarily say like I didn't like it. I just felt like it was the least interesting part of the movie for me. And which is kind of interesting for, you know, a very violent scene to have no interest in for me.
But you're not the first person that I've heard say that. I'm still trying to figure out how I came away from the same movie feeling so differently than a lot of people that I respect and usually share opinions with.
Yeah. But yeah, honestly, up until the last probably 45 minutes of the movie, I was seriously considering putting it as my number one. But it got knocked down quite a bit from that. And it's possible because I watched the first like 2 hours of it with Tyler, and then I went back and watched the other hour later. So it's possible that I was disinvested enough from the film that it just didn't mean anything.
You heard it here, folks. Heard it here first, folks. Watching movies with Tyler makes them better.
Hello, ladies.
Yeah. So there were really only 3 movies this year that I would say like I really just liked, and we're still in the ones that I have a lot of negative opinions on. Toy Story 4. I like where Toy Story 3 left it off, and in my mind, I feel like Disney realized that, oh no, Toy Story 3 is overtly anti-communist. Let's try Toy Story 3 again, but this time more communist friendly.
That was not my read, but all right. I appreciate the thought.
I shockingly haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I would offer the radical proposition that Toy Story 4... I mean, I'm not the first person to say this, but Toy Story 4 was written in such a way that they could reboot the Toy Story franchise without having to bring back all of the actors who keep dying. So...
Yeah.
Oh.
That's fair. One, and also
that was
the other
a sad way to say that.
Well, look how many actors died between Toy Story 2 and 3.
I mean, they also waited forever.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's clear they brought in a lot of young talent so that if they want to make a Toy Story 5, they can.
Yeah, that's fair. I really freaking hope they don't. Toy Story 3,
even the setup is completely new.
Yeah. In my opinion, if they make another Toy Story, it's not a Toy Story. Like, it will have basically none of any of the characters that we have known and loved for my entire lifetime. But
I don't think that's... look at James Bond. to a lot of people, like I imagine people in the '60s were like, "Wait, they're making a James Bond movie without Sean Connery? It's gonna be a flop. No one's gonna. Who wants to see that?" Cut to 40 years later, 50 years later, we're still making Bond movies. Clearly, it's recycling characters and filling new gaps can work.
But they're not like formally James Bond 15. It's I think there is an extent to which, I mean, it's the same characters. It's just, a new actor portraying them, whereas this is just all new, all different, but we're still going to keep the same, branding for it, which
and I think what you're saying is why a lot of movies for a while now their sequels have been like colon something else instead of a number.
Yeah.
Because I think they're afraid of people feeling the same way you do.
Yeah. Well, and I think too there's an advantage to the colon as well. That is, when you name something Toy Story 4 and people haven't seen 1 through 3, well, I'm not going to see Toy Story 4. Like, I haven't seen any of these other ones that this builds off of. Whereas if it's just a colon, it's like, okay, I'm just going to see the new Toy Story.
Yeah, I find that I think the biggest advantage to the colon is healthy bowels.
Fair.
Stop.
Awkward transition. Avengers Endgame.
What number are you at?
This is 4.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about Avengers Endgame. It's I don't want to say it's as good as I could have expected it to be, because I think there are some small issues that could have been ironed out. I think you could largely have the same general movie, but just change some of the resolutions to the characters. And I don't necessarily mind something like one big issue with Thor. Like, his main struggle, you could say, in a lot of ways, has been his reluctance to accept power. Accept the authority that's granted him.
Accept responsibility, I think.
Yeah, that's probably a better word. And so he's still in the MCU. So there's a sense in which him not getting, him still not taking that responsibility works, because you can do that later. But I think you look at like a Tony Stark, who really from the beginning has been willing to lay down his life for saving the day. And in a lot of ways, his arc has always been more about like whether or not he's going to grow up and settle down. And then you say, but his ultimate redemption or whatever, he gives up his life for the cause. But he always was going to do that.
I don't know. I think if you look back, almost all of those times has been in his own self-interest.
But I don't see where this isn't.
It's ultimately it's selfish in the sense that he's not doing what is right by his family. But
yeah.
But I think, like, knowingly, I think putting your life on the line, or like putting yourself in danger and putting your life on the line, I think are different things. And I think he put himself in danger many, many times for his own personal interests, at least at the beginning of the franchise.
He rode a nuke into the outer reaches of space.
which was his arc in the first Avengers movie.
But I'm just saying, like, he's been established as that person.
True, and I think they were kind of like, I think that was like part 1 to the culmination of, like, in the first Avengers movie, when Cap says, "You're never going to be the guy to lay your life down on the line." Like, that's not you. Mm-hmm. And I think the end of Avengers is part 1 of completing his arc, and the end of Endgame is part 2 of completing his arc as a character.
I suppose. I disagree.
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made. He's completing the same character arc twice.
Yeah, and we already did this.
Well, it depends on how you feel. Everything that he accomplished between Age of Ultron and Infinity War colors that too. So.
Yeah. And then the one thing I will say, for the most part, I felt nothing when watching Endgame. However, Death of Black Widow is phenomenal, and I'm a little bit frustrated that there wasn't a bigger deal made out of it.
Yeah, I don't know why they picked her, though. I think they've been setting up Hawkeye to die for a very long time, and they keep putting it off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people have speculated Hawkeye was going to die, like, since Age of Ultron. Yeah, like, that's what everyone thought was going to... well, at first, until they did Quicksilver, and they're like, oh yeah, Quicksilver's going to die, because he's not one of the main cast.
Honestly, of all the characters the Russo brothers have handled, I think that they get Hawkeye the least of all the major characters.
That's probably
Which
fair.
is why I'm excited for the TV show. Like, he's a very cool character, and I'm excited to see what they do for him on a smaller scale.
Well, the problem is, like, the only story in which that really has done him justice is Age of Ultron. And it's such a different characterization than the one he's gotten in every other movie.
Yeah.
At least in terms of what he's like in his life outside of the movies. He's such a schlubby guy in that movie.
Well, I mean, the last time... Oh, I guess he was in...
Thor.
Yeah. No. Well, I was thinking, like, after Age of Ultron, he's in...
Civil War.
Yeah, but I was forgetting about Civil War. I was thinking straight to Endgame.
Which, by the way, he's come very out of character in that movie.
He's... Yeah. Yes, he is. All right, so above Endgame, I put Far From Home. Frankly, my biggest complaint about Far From Home is that I really think they should have just taken a year off after Endgame. Like, just let that simmer before being like, all right, here's the next thing. And also, don't make Spider-Man Iron Man. That's a thing, too. But... I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's a detriment to the movie. It's a detriment to the franchise.
Funny thing is, I think that movie did more to make Spider-Man feel like classic Spider-Man than most of the other renditions we've seen of him in the MCU so far.
I would agree, and that's part of why I don't think it's a huge deal. But I just feel like there's not... I mean, yeah, you could argue that Spider-Man Homecoming had a little bit too much Iron Man, and I would definitely argue that Spider-Man Far From Home has a little too much Iron Man, which is ironic because he's dead.
But his presence is definitely in that movie. It's all over it,
and it makes sense that his presence would be there. That would impact the story. I'm just not a huge fan of, while yes, it does a good job of having Peter Parker be Spider-Man. I think it just puts a little bit too much of the characters that remain for Tony Stark there.
I also would note that moment echoes the final moment of Iron Man, which is interesting because Iron Man's the first movie in the Infinity Saga and Spider-Man is the last one. So this movie that is all about the lack of Iron Man ends on a moment that's almost directly parallel to the final moment of Iron Man.
Yeah. And you could argue that there's... See, in my mind, that's Endgame. And I understand that's, what I think is not necessarily what is actually true, but...
Also, all of the villains in Far From Home are minor Iron Man villains, so I completely understand why you'd be like, there's too much Iron Man in this not Iron Man movie.
Yeah,
I will be completely honest, I periodically forget that movie exists.
Yeah.
I love Mysterio, though.
I think I really enjoyed it
in the theater.
But I just don't find myself thinking about it, and I think that is due, like what you said, Andrew, to the fact that they probably should have taken more time between movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 90% of what I love about that movie is just Mysterio, though.
Mysterio is phenomenal. When I love too, like, just some of the poking fun at comics of like, yeah, I'm from universe, 6182 or whatever, and it's like, they bought that? What the hell? Like, I love that whole thing. And what's especially fun is like, okay, I know Mysterio as a villain, but because in the trailers they were talking about him being from another universe, and in the comics that's totally a thing, I'm like, hell yeah, there would be a universe in which Mysterio isn't a bad guy. Like, I could see that.
See, I don't think I ever bought into that, and I'm kind of bummed I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, like, once the movie started, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, he's the villain. Because there wasn't really a compelling villain presented. Like, you had the elemental stuff, and it's like, okay, but, like...
That's, like, the most generic thing ever.
Yeah, like, there's something more than that. That's not it. And so then it was like, okay, yeah, it's Mysterio.
I'm not trying to take shots, but that's that's more DC style than Marvel. Marvel has a person as a villain. DC has kind of force of nature or something like that.
Yeah. So
generally in the movies.
Yeah. So then above Spider-Man: Far From Home, I put the second Lego Movie.
Oh, yay! That was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as the first one, but I mean, in some ways, you'd already done it. I liked that they didn't try to waste your time with the gimmick / twist of the first one. They were just like, yeah, this is the real world too. It's fine.
Yeah,
and it was
that's another one that falls into the category for me for like forgettable but enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I would say that the Lego Movie 2 it deserved a lot more credit than it got. And I know a lot of people that were completely unhappy with it or thought it was absolutely terrible. And I'm sitting there like,
I can understand some people really not liking it. It's because with the Lego Movie, when you're first doing it, maybe it's obvious. Like I called the twist ending, quote unquote twist ending. But when that's not what the entire film is built on, you don't notice some of the weird stuff that happens in it. Whereas in the Lego Movie 2, when you're watching it from the beginning, knowing that this is a kid playing with toys, you're like, well, and so in some ways it doesn't work quite as well there.
Yeah.
But
still, probably my favorite Tiffany Haddish role.
I don't know what that means.
Tiffany Haddish? Oh, she's a very popular actress and comedian now, and she played the villain, I guess.
Queen Watanabe.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Whatever wannabe.
She was like the shape-shifting thing.
And I think one thing that I really appreciated about the Lego Movie 2 is that it feeds into my frequent annoyance at the constant, like, you have to reboot everything dark and gritty. Everything has to be dark and like, it explicitly makes fun of that, and I'm like, you shouldn't make fun of it. It's stupid. So on that note, my movie of the year is Joker.
Perfect. Oh my god! Are you serious? Wait, are you actually serious?
I mean, kind of.
This says a lot about our society.
We live in a society.
Namely, that we live in a society.
I freaking hate society.
This is why it's because he doesn't have a girlfriend. So
I don't know what that has to do with anything. But I'm still disappointed.
That's fair.
People with girlfriends don't like Joker, but people who don't have girlfriends. What did I just say?
Something like that.
That? You know what?
People
I hate to say it, but the more I think about that, that's kind of true.
Yeah, I could say a lot about Joker. Like, I don't think it's amazing. And there are movies on here that I do think are probably better. I don't know. I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought I have my complaints, obviously, because I have complaints with everything.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
But no, I enjoyed my time with it. I thought that number one, I don't know.
On its own, I think it's a fine movie. Although I like the movie that it's based on, much more than it. So
yeah, although I don't think that should be a detriment to the movie. To me, what I came away from it thinking was that was a good movie that tried way too hard to be great and made me think less of it as a result.
It is very
That's probably
it is
fair.
very try-hardy.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, and I think that is a way to interpret my complaints, is that it was trying to be great. I didn't think of it that way. I think it definitely tried to be more than it was, and that is
Yeah.
frustrating.
When
But
on its own, like, it probably would have, if it just, like, settled for what it was, it would have been a really good movie.
Yeah,
But it was trying so hard to be great.
yeah.
I wonder why Joaquin Phoenix was interested in it from the first place.
I don't know, but I won't take anything away from his performance. He was excellent in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that movie does not exist without its performance.
Oh no, not even.
It's
Not
gonna
even
say a
close.
lot about our society when he wins Best Actor.
But yeah, no. As you guys were talking about Joker, I looked down at my list. And I'm like, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not mad.
I mean, also
I am disappointed.
I do think I should remind you that, like, I didn't watch that many movies.
That's fair. I don't expect everyone to. I am surprised by your ranking.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
Well, there you go.
there you go.
All right. I'm going to take a brief bathroom break. Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, but what do we have to talk about?
Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No.
He was a Sith Lord who was so powerful. He could even use the Force to create the midichlorians and keep people from dying. He had such a knowledge of the dark side that... Oh, actually, I just said that line.
Yeah, you did.
Frick.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Are you implying you're Sith?
I mean, Riley literally gave me a blue lightsaber for Christmas, so...
Oh, okay. No, I love how very, very obviously, very obviously, Palpatine is Sith in that movie. It's
In
like,
the Rise of Skywalker?
no, well, I mean, yes, but I mean, in Revenge of the Sith,
The weird thing is that there's like a lot of subtext that can actually be read into that scene, and yet the entire what that scene serves to function in the movie is so unbelievably obvious that it's
Right.
painful to watch. So I'm like, oh, like, is he implying that he like conceived Anakin in the Force? Is he implying that he personally killed Darth Plagueis because he was his apprentice? Well, that doesn't matter because we know that it's all this serves to do in the plot is just make Anakin really dopey. So
right? I will say the best thing about Rise of Skywalker is the memes. The memes are phenomenal.
well, the memes make everything better. Even
I mean, I
fi-
wasn't really a huge fan of most of the sequel memes, but
Although-
then Rise of Skywalker came out, and I was like, oh, yes.
Although I am sick of Baby Yoda memes.
They're not memes. They're just pictures of Baby Yoda.
And I love Baby Yoda, but
Baby
dang it,
Yoda
man.
is great, but you can't just take a picture of something and be like, haha, it's a meme.
You're oversaturating the Baby Yoda market.
You pay for your Baby Yoda memes?
You missed me retelling the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, so...
Oh. I'm okay with that.
Alright. Should I read off my list then?
Something like that.
Yes, please.
Alright, for records, I am reading off of my list as it was posted on my friend's blog, the Ed blog. Tyler's top 14 best films of 2019, and I chose that very awkward number because,
Screw you.
well, one of the films that came out was technically a 2018 movie, and I felt like I needed to accommodate it. And another one of them is an HBO miniseries, so
Well,
but
I mean-
I counted as a movie because I wanted to talk about it. So
AJ mentioned
Okay.
15, I mentioned 13, you're mentioning 14.
Yeah, it
oh
worked.
my gosh, there's a motif involved here. It's that we can't count. Let's see. I'll throw in a couple of random ones, but I don't want to give away the whole list because I actually threw a lot of runners up into this year.
Read my stuff.
Yes, read my book. Read my book. I gave the best bad movie of 2019 to Angel Has Fallen. Although in hindsight, there were a couple movies I should have given that I also considered giving it to, like Once Upon a Time in Deadwood, which is not a good movie, but I loved it. I gave most interesting not good movie of 2019 to The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, which
I'll be honest, without having read any of your stuff because I wanted to be surprised by this, I really expected that to be high on your list. Just knowing you.
I like the movie. The problem is it's with like so many of Terry Gilliam's recent movies, they just don't have the breadth and scope that they used to have. Like nothing, everything he's doing in Man Who Killed Don Quixote is just a washed out version of the stuff he was doing in Fisher King. So I can't really give it a good movie cast with any sort of reasonable, like, honesty. But it's not a terrible movie, and it's very interesting, so it's worth watching at that point. Oh, and I gave least morally scrupulous yet still funny bad movie to 2019 to Rambo: Last Blood. So,
okay, except for a movie that got screened for us, that was written by the person who started the film school that I go to. That was just terrible. Sorry.
But you get to see a man's heart ripped out of his chest.
Words fail me when I talk about the movie that was screened for me. Save for that movie, Rambo: Last Blood is the worst movie of the year, bar none.
I like it in a schlock 80s action movie sort of way, so I'm not giving it any credit, but
it's just that
it's so bad, but I was laughing throughout of it, so I don't want to beat up on it too bad.
See, but it was bad with like an agenda, and so it wasn't funny to me. It made me mad.
I don't know if that movie even had like a coherent worldview to it. I think it was just the worst thing I'd say about it is that it's ripping off Logan, like rather aggressively, but like not intelligently and kind of hatefully. It's not a smart way to rip off Logan. It's a dumb way to rip off Logan. It's just guy goes to try to rescue his daughter and fights a small group of people. That's the whole movie, but you get to see a man's heart ripped out of his chest. It delivered what it promised, and it didn't promise very much. Whatever, I'm not going to get into a fight about Rambo: Last Blood. It sucks. So.
Well said.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to go into my runners-up, because I threw a lot of notable movies on that list. Lighthouse is on that list. Uncut Gems is on that list. Dolomite is on that list. Knives Out is on that list. So yeah, they all get credit for me, but they weren't. They didn't make my top 14. But yeah, starting out, number 14 is Marriage Story, which we already talked about that. No disagreement there. Number 13, Ford v Ferrari, which a lot of people are really into.
I still need to see it.
It didn't get to the top for me. I was left a little cold by it, but it's a very well done movie. I can't take that away from it. It's very well done, and almost everyone I've talked to who's seen it's like, oh man, that's the best thing I've seen this year. So, good for the movie. 12 is Dragged Across Concrete, which was my favorite for most of the year.
Was that the Jeremy Saulnier one?
Yes. No, that's Hold the Dark. Dragged Across Concrete is S. Craig Zahler, the purveyor of movies like Bone Tomahawk and Brawl in Cell Block 99.
That's right. Okay.
And I don't think I've ever seen a movie that was clearly cast as a joke be made into a movie that's like has the tone of Taxi Driver. It's so bizarre, but I love it. Like Mel Gibson plays a cop accused of police brutality.
Oh no.
I love it. It's so great, and it's just delve into human depravity.
I don't know a lot about it, and I need to add that to my list because I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Bad people doing bad things for 2.5 hours, and hanging out in a car complaining about it. So,
I'm in.
Number 11. I almost gave it away. Number 11 is 1917, which is very good. I had to go out of my way and see it early in Chicago so I could get it on, so I could decide whether or not it deserved to be on the list. It's a little gimmicky, but it's very, very well done.
I'm almost certain that will probably, based on everything I've heard and based on what I've seen, I'm almost certain that will break into my top 10.
It seems a little polarizing, though. Like, some people are either, like, really, really into it, getting into it, or really, really hating it. So...
I don't know. But I really need to see it, and I'm probably going to see it tomorrow.
Alright. Number 10 is Shadow, the Wuxia Chinese film.
I want to see that.
Funny thing was, over the summer, it was playing in a movie theater, but it was also... But I realized that if I didn't go and see it, and I just bought it on DVD, I was going to get I could buy a copy for the same price it was going to cost me to go out and see it, so I ended up just buying it on DVD, and I'm glad I did, because I've watched it twice since then, and it's really good.
That's awesome.
The only thing I don't like about it is that the director is, like... I'm half convinced that half the movies he makes are just blatant Chinese propaganda. Like, absolutely blatant. Like, he made The Great Wall. But,
yeah.
But even if you go
back...
But
he also made Hero and House of Flying Daggers,
Hero,
which are two of the most beautifully stunning movies I've ever seen.
Hero is an amazing movie, but I fear it's like a justification for, like, tyrannical government in a weird way. So I'm like, and the movie is all about a misunderstood dictator who's trying to unite the world under his reign. I'm like, and the movie justifies this by the end. I'm like, okay, this movie was made by China. I don't like this. But I mean, credit where it's due. The director is amazing, so I'm not gonna take that away from him. But I'm just like, this is really thinly veiled government propaganda. I don't like it, I don't like that aspect of it. But
that's kind of how I felt about Rambo.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Number 9 is Parasite, which we already talked about. 8, Ad Astra, which that seems to be getting some weird reactions out of people.
That very nearly missed out on my list. I mean, it's very good.
Yeah, the worst thing I'll say about it is that it's kind of hollow when you compare it to the films it's clearly kind of aping. Mm-hmm. But
no pun intended.
Well, yeah, but it's also weird that it's PG-13. Like, it feels like it should have more of an edge to it, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. That it's a very it's a very adult film, but not in a bad way. Like, not in like a way that adult usually is connotated. Like, it's a very mature movie. I should say that.
I love how Edgar Wright pointed that out on Twitter a couple months ago when he saw the Ford v Ferrari trailer, and he's like, "Yay, grown-up movies! I miss them." But yeah, number 7 is Jojo Rabbit, which honestly, it's 7th on the list. It might actually be my personal favorite this year because I absolutely adore Taika Waititi, and I don't know why people are mad at it. It seems pretty straightforwardly anti-Nazi. So, Saving Private Ryan depicts Nazis. Canceled. Yeah, number 6. I gave it to Little Women, which
I want to see that.
That movie is. I think the fans for that movie kind of annoy me because it's one of those things where it's like, this is a really well-made movie. It's enjoyable. I would not have expected to like it. And everyone on Twitter is like, Little Women is the best thing I've seen all year. Everyone needs to go see Little Women right now. And I'm like, calm down. Have you seen that at all?
I have not yet, but I really want to.
I've seen, like, New Yorker, like, critics talk about the problem of people not going to see it. Like, we have an epidemic of men that don't want to go see Little Women. I'm like, okay, you need to calm down.
I think there's a slight amount of truth to that.
There's a slight amount of truth, but it's also a movie I would not expect most teenage men to want to go see. Having seen it, it's a very slow-paced drama. I can see it's not gonna get most action movie junkies and make them happy. So
I feel like there's the problem isn't with males, it's with people that refuse to go outside their comfort zone.
And that's fair. I mean, I like Gerwig's last film, Lady Bird, so I was inclined to go and want to see this one. So obviously, I'm pretty open-minded in this respect. But
women are the worst. Why do they even exist? My favorite movie is Joker.
More like little women,
I saw
am
you
I
back
right?
there dancing, and I was like, he's about to say something controversial.
Women.
Like, he is way too happy right now, and that's because he knows he's about to make somebody mad.
I meant none of that. Okay, sorry, continue.
Anyway, to get away from my friend's horrific sexism. Number 5 is A Hidden Life, which I am very sad this is not getting Oscar love.
Okay, there's
Speaking
the you
of
pick.
Nazis.
And explain to me how this is the me pick.
Every year, you have at least one ultra pretentious pick. Like that, like even I'm just like, all right, let's make something a little more appealing. But like, of course you pick a Terrence Malick movie.
I don't even know what to say to you.
Terrence Malick's first true epic since The Tree of Life.
Well, yeah. I mean, his last 3 movies are basically unwatchable. So, and I like Terrence Malick movies, so I'm saying that.
But that's the thing. Like with Terrence Malick, how can you discern what's unwatchable and what's art? They all look the same.
I mean, isn't that just art?
As someone who studies film, I'm sure you understand the
subtleties,
the
AJ.
nuance
The
of-
subtleties.
A movie that looks the same as another movie, but is immensely more watchable than it. I'm sure you can understand that.
Yes, of course. I have a very mixed relationship with Terrence Malick.
I mean, truthfully, this is from a plot perspective. This is easily one of his more accessible ones. There's no time travel. It's mostly just kind of slow.
Well, I think go back to like Badlands or Days of Heaven. People think of Tree of Life, I think, when they think Terrence Malick or Thin Red Line. I think he was a lot more grounded at one point.
I mean, I wouldn't say Tree of Life is a grounded movie at all. So.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people think of Tree of Life and Thin Red Line. I think of Malick as just like this ethereal art house director. I was like, no, like he was a grounded like indie filmmaker, like 70s filmmaker at one point.
I mean, Thin Red Line is pretty grounded, all things considered. It's
but like you were saying, it jumped like time traveling, and like it jumps around in his very like stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
that's Malick.
Yeah, I mean, Hidden Life is that in the sense that it's mostly just characters ruminating for 3 hours.
Of course,
but I think it finds enough there that it's great on its own terms. So, and plus I think it's an interesting kind of counterpoint to Silence. Which I'm guessing you're not.
I was trying to refrain from bashing Silence again because it is a beautiful movie. It was just a bit much for me.
It's also I would say Silence. I've read the book. It's a very good adaptation of the book too.
So. Okay.
And the book, I think, comes from a place of very authentic Christianity, especially in the context of being that it's from a guy who is living in Japan in a culture that's not religious in that way. So
yeah, I respect that.
But yeah, now number 4 is my controversial pick. Is HBO's miniseries Chernobyl.
Okay.
So controversial.
I mean, it's a 5-hour television series, but honestly, of all the things I've seen this year, this probably had the most visceral impact on me, and I wanted to give it some love because, I mean, have you seen it?
I have not.
I did not know anything about the actual historical event that was Chernobyl before this, so seeing some of what happens in it and realizing that this actually happened it's pretty harrowing. And it's one of those things where it just shocks you because you don't know about it. And
fair.
Even just as a story in of itself, it's a very well told miniseries.
I think it would have a different impact on me because living in Poland, I actually knew a couple people that were personally impacted by Chernobyl.
Well, yeah, they probably got a decent dosage of radiation, so.
So, like, I'm glad that people are learning about it. But like I said, I think it would have a very different impact on me. And I just, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't have plans to watch it.
That's fair. I mean, I would say it's worth. You should watch it just for the experience. It's a horror series going into it, so from the first episode on, you know it's gonna go some pretty dark places, and it's gonna stay there for a long time. But it's worth it for what it ultimately says and where it goes thematically.
Fair.
Number 3 is not gonna talk about that. Number 2.
What happened?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 2. Number 2.
That's fair. I understand I'm in the minority. It just never ceases to surprise me that I am. Because I felt so...
Whereas I expect to be.
I felt so differently about the movie, and I did not expect it to have such a following.
I am answering a text real quick. Andrew, entertain them for a second.
Well, I can't juggle. I sure would like to. I could read his second movie just to grab the spotlight from him, but I won't do that. I'm too nice. Yeah, I don't have much to say. I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's it's decent.
Well, I was gonna ask you what's the movie that maybe we've talked about or maybe we haven't talked about that you wish you had seen this year?
For me, Jojo Rabbit is definitely one of them. And what was the Rian Johnson one? Was Knives Out?
Knives Out, yeah.
I think those two would probably be the biggest ones for me, just because I wasn't a big fan of The Looper from Rian Johnson, but I really enjoyed a lot of the directorial decisions that he made in The Last Jedi, so I'm interested to see more of his stuff.
You should also check out Brick.
Mm-hmm.
You should also catch Cats.
No. No.
Although I will say, Cats has the creepiest fan base I think I've ever seen in a major film.
You would have to be incredibly creepy to be a fan of Cats.
Well, the problem is...
we're talking about the movie. Never mind.
Well... I'm gonna kill you. I'm actually gonna kill you now.
I love that Tyler posts more like cat pictures than anybody I know on Facebook, and I'm friends with a lot of middle-aged ladies.
Hey, I bring joy to the world in these dark times.
It's true. It's you and Three Dog Night and nobody else.
Hey, I'm proud of those photos. They make people happy, unlike some people. Actually, I don't know who I'm calling out in this scenario.
Yeah, that could be literally anybody.
Yeah, I was like, that could be me, that could be AJ, that could be somebody not here.
I'm just going to go ahead and stare off into the distance for a while.
No one understands that bit. They can't see.
Being stern, give it like one more second. Okay, I'm done. Number 2, The Irishman, which we're both in agreement about. Although I was surprised it didn't get higher on your list.
I liked a lot of movies this year.
I mean, that's fair, but honestly, I thought it felt like it was kind of something of a masterpiece in and of itself. So
fair. I think the length, as much as it, I don't think anything was wasted per se. I think it did take its toll.
Don't tell me. I saw it in a theater. I went out of my way to see it in an actual movie theater.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I saw all 3.5 hours in a chair in the second row. So I am as well aware of it as everyone else. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've met a lot of people that legitimately hate this movie, and I'm confused by that. Like, especially on Twitter. Like, I have friends in my film clique that absolutely despise this movie, and it's really depressing.
Okay, I was about to say, like, if you're just judging based on Twitter, you'll find anything on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well,
I friggin' hate puddles. Like,
Well-
what?
Dude, same.
go back and listen to some of the film critics I've had on. Like all those people are my film buddies on Twitter.
Gotcha.
And some of them absolutely hate The Irishman, and I don't get why. Well, a lot of them are people that think that Martin Scorsese is a hack ever since he came out and said he didn't like Marvel movies, and so there was a little bit of being vindictive there. So
People are stupid.
Guys, not you guys, just guys in general. And not just guys.
I was gonna
like,
say, women,
people of the
too.
world.
guys and non-Joker fans.
That's fair. Members of society.
Just because somebody has a different opinion than something you feel strongly about does not make them a bad person.
What?
Let the elderly man and not have his old movies to himself. He just wants to watch Turner Classic Movies like Grandpa does.
But people who disagree with me want people murdered in the street.
That's what CNN told me.
Indeed.
Oh my gosh.
This is a political podcast, people. This is the politics hour now.
I did not sign up for
Let's
this.
talk Trump.
I made one comment and he's already signing off. But
he's not. No one is committed to the bit. Bunch of amateurs.
all right,
This is why we don't have Andrew's finger on the button.
I would have hung up like 4 times by now.
This is why you're not president, Andrew.
I would love to be president. I have such good ideas.
Press the nuclear button now. No,
It's for the bit.
It's for the bit.
I'm just gonna repeat the divine speech from Pink Flamingos. Kill everyone now.
I mean, yeah. The only way to
Endorse
ensure world
mass
peace
murder.
is to wipe
respect
everyone
that
off the
reference.
face of the earth, except me.
Thank you for getting that. I've never actually seen
John-
Pink Flamingos, but I know the speech very well. So
John Waters needs more love. Because he is so weird, and I love him for it.
well, as Jay Bauman said at Red Letter Media, there were 2 movies that influenced my entire life: Clerks and Pink Flamingos. Clerks told me anyone can make a movie, and Pink Flamingos told me anyone can make a movie about anything. Regardless of whether they should. So yeah, my number 1 film is not one I'm sure most people have heard about, but it's Never Look Away, from German director Florian Henkel von Dammersmark, which I don't like that this man has 4 names, but he previously directed one of my other favorite movies, The Lives of Others, which is
Oh, okay, yes.
arguably
I was
the
like,
greatest.
I know that name.
Arguably the greatest movie ever about why communism is a bad thing. Especially Eastern German communism.
Because history didn't do that good enough.
Well, let's not get political.
Why is that
Oh,
political?
okay, that's the line.
saying communism is bad is a political statement now, unfortunately.
It's ridiculous.
Let's see who wins the election next year. But
Oh, gosh.
because we all know that Joe Biden is going to come in and become the true communist. But
I don't want to keep talking about this.
you see, that's the joke. But yeah,
Make AJ uncomfortable. Make
Never
AJ
Look Away.
uncomfortable.
You see, I could have gone with anyone else in that joke, and it would have been appropriate. But instead, I went with Biden. That was the joke.
Yes.
But yeah, Never Look Away is from the same guy who did Lives of Others. And you'd think it would be this horribly pretentious German movie.
Which it is.
But everyone I've shown it to absolutely adores it.
I doubt that. He's not, he's no Terrence Malick.
I was really just trying to set up something for you, so I'm glad you...
No, because no, I have to be fair.
There are a lot of German movies coming out right now about why Nazis are bad. I can't imagine why, but I mean,
Is it because Nazis are bad?
Are Nazis bad?
I'm
pretty
freaking
sure.
Hi, my name is Norm
political.
MacDonald, and I've never heard of a Nazi before. So, but yeah, I mean, by itself, it's everyone I've shown it to has agreed that it's one of the best things they've seen all year. And unfortunately, it was technically a 2018 German release, so it's technically not the best film of this year. But I really wanted to give it the love it deserved, because I've noticed the last few years, universally, the movie that I ended up loving the most came out like 2 weeks. It came out in January after the wide release, so I wanted to give some retroactive love to this one. I mean, that same thing happened to Phantom Thread and to Silence. So,
I mean, you didn't mention it last year, so I think it's fair.
I mean, I noticed it this year though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, I got to the
Well,
point
that's what I
where
mean. Is like, because you said it did technically get the release this year. You said, right? It was in Germany.
I mean,
it was.
I could retroactively say that Rosemary's Baby was the best movie I've seen this year. That doesn't mean it came out this year.
Well,
but I think there's some fuzziness around some of those worldwide release dates.
I'm just joshing your taters.
I completely agree with your point, but I think that the extreme version of that is like the YMS argument, where you're like, I don't review the best movie of until 5 years later, because I want to be able to make sure I've seen every single film that year, and I can represent the year accurately, and I'm just sitting here like...
Okay, but now your opinion is no longer relevant.
Yeah, you're going to be given the best films of 2016 list in 2020. That's very helpful.
Well,
I was holding back for your opinion.
For
now I can watch things.
Yeah, but no, it's true. Like, I've seen almost 90 movies, and I still have like 40 more that I want to see. That's just there's just so many. Talk about oversaturating.
You've seen
the
more
market.
movies this year than I've heard of.
So that's the kind of the reality, though. It's just like it's quite possible that most years the best movie is not one that got released in a major theater by January 1st.
Yeah.
So it's hard to jump to see everything you want to, and I had to go down to downtown twice, like the week of Christmas, just so I could catch 1917 and A Hidden Life, because I knew I wasn't going to get a chance to see it otherwise. So.
Yeah, I really wish more people would have sought out my number one pick.
I mean, it's one of those.
It was
things.
Avengers Endgame.
Oh.
My number one pick was Avengers Endgame.
I forgot for a half a second there, and then I realized. You mean more than the 2.5 billion people that made it the most profitable film in history?
Well,
or did you see it all those times?
That was a joke that happened.
Guys, Avengers Endgame isn't actually a movie, therefore it doesn't qualify. Martin Scorsese told me.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
It's true. Martin Scorsese is God.
But you know what a real movie is? Rise of Skywalker.
It's a movie that exists. You can't say it isn't.
Yeah, but it was shot on film, so that makes it a real movie. It was shot on
I don't think it was shot on film.
I think it was. I think most of the Disney ones are shot on film, actually. I know Force Awakens was, but
yeah, I know Force. Yeah, all right, we can talk about that later.
Shooting on film is a good thing in my mind. So
yeah, no, I think it's fair. I know a lot. There were lots of choices that were made for The Force Awakens that weren't necessarily like let's be good, and like I think it was fine, but like less like let's be good and more like let's do it the way the originals did it.
Yeah,
it's like that doesn't inherently make it good. That just makes it
well, and it's also just like Disney could do that because they have the budget for it. Film is not cost effective, and the difference to shoot on film is not, I think, noticeable or even relevant enough to justify the cost.
It can make a difference, though.
It can.
I noticed some directors there's going to be a rather startling difference to it. Like Woody Allen movies are a really good example of that because they're kind of written the same way they've always been, like now versus then, but the look has changed so completely ever since digital cinema became a thing.
But I also think of filmmakers like Steven Soderbergh, whose like last 3 movies or something like that have been shot on an iPhone.
True. But that was clearly an artistic decision from the get-go.
But I like that because it's telling people that you don't need the biggest equipment to tell a story.
But gatekeepers are my favorite people.
Gatekeepers are important. Without them, we would have nobody to check the gate.
Yes. Deep philosophical debate here.
This is some Jaden Smith level philosophy you've got going right here. If I never had eyes, how could I ever truly
2013 reference.
see? I'm fine with that. I don't know about you guys. Frick it.
I missed it. What?
He called my Jaden Smith joke a 2013 joke.
I don't remember the specific years, but I'll take your word for it.
I don't know. I feel like that's when...
I feel like it
was
had
at
to
his
have
peak.
been after that, but I don't know.
Oh,
No? I don't know.
What time is it where you are right now?
Tuesday.
It's after 11.
It's Thursday
Just
where
take-
you are right now.
Just take what time it is where you're at and add an hour.
But that's
Yeah.
math.
Yeah, you need to get going to bed soon then?
We don't do math on
Yeah,
the
I should,
podcast.
especially since I'm trying to get over this cough.
Yeah.
Really, I have been for over a month,
Ooh,
to no
nice.
avail. But I'm going to keep trying.
Alright, we've covered our bases, and that was the best movies of 2018 as per everyone except for Thomas, who...
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately-
Come on,
Or
Thomas.
2019.
Thomas is currently ripping in peace, so may he rip well.
Mm.
So
I'm going to have him send his list to me personally.
Signed and notarized.
I need to get one of those Microsoft voice mechanic robot voices to read it off on the next podcast.
We just Microsoft
Thomas's
Sam
best
or whatever.
movies of 2019. Number 1, Joker. Number
Yes.
2, Joker.
All of it is Joker. Joker is the best film of the decade. Ah!
I actually didn't ask him about that, but I'm sure that's probably what he'd say.
He liked it more than I did, but he also may
Oh,
have seen
great.
more movies than I did. So
That
Hold
doesn't
on,
surprise me,
We need
though.
to solicit his Rise of Skywalker opinion, because his Star Wars hot takes are legendary.
I would have absolutely guessed Thomas would choose Joker before I ever would have guessed that you did.
Joker is a very Thomas movie,
100%.
and I mean that in the best and worst ways.
I mean that in the sense that he is one of my best friends. And that is a Thomas movie.
Alright.
Anyways.
Time to call it a night, I think.
Yep. I'm gonna go Betty bye.
Alright, this has been your best movies of 2019 for the Groupthink Podcast.
The Groupthink Podcast!
Shut up!
I almost did that at the beginning, but I was like, wait,
know,
I got
saw
chewed
you,
out.
and
I
was
got
like,
chewed out for it last
I'm gonna wait
time.
on this.
I have an actual theme song now.
I know
Thank
you do, and it's worse.
How is it worse than what...
Or
Just
you're not stealing
scream.
Joe's music anymore?
No, I have music. It's
like how
better
you
than
didn't
just
answer the
screaming into
question.
the microphone. Whatever. Good night, everyone.
The Groupthink Podcast.
Good night.
Good night. I love you all.